We'll, we'll go ahead and get started. Ken, take it away.
Sure. So today is an important day. It is your best friend's 62nd birthday. You have balloons, breakfast, flowers all ready for her. You see her come up the elevator, down the hall, and as she walks in, everyone shouts, "Surprise!" She walks right past everybody. Y'all are in shock. She walks right into the CEO's office and she tells her, "I'm retiring and I want to start my pension." CEO, she sits back, starts peppering her with questions. Are you aware that by starting your pension, you're reducing it by 30%? She's calm, cool, collected. She responds, I know. Did you know that by claiming now, you're limiting your spouse's options? She responds, I know. Are you aware that your pension is tax exempt in California and has additional tax savings federally that you might be giving up? She responds, I'm aware. Boss asks one more time, are you sure? Her response, very. Now, ladies, how did she get there? How did she get the information to make an informed choice? There are so many questions we have to navigate. How is she going to be getting health care insurance after retirement before Medicare age? What should they do with their rental properties? What are the best way to gift to their kids and grandkids? Is it right now or is it after they pass? Some weeks she's working 30, 40, busy weeks, 60 hours a week, helping out with their kids, start their new lives with the house. New grandbabies are on the way. Um, Last year she had to settle her parents' estate, all while planning the next vacation. There are a million things to do, and to make the right choice, it's tough. Without a doubt, it's hard. Now, ladies, we all know you're rock stars. You wouldn't be here tonight if you weren't. So how did your friend do it? She had help. She had a comprehensive financial plan. And let's be honest, she read her book too. She had a plan that focused on the five key areas: income, like Social Security, investments, insurance, tax, estate plan, how all those things interconnected. So, everyone, my name is Kenneth Hamilton. I'm one of the managing members of Mission Financial Planners, as Matt mentioned, accompanied by Matt Donaghue, the keynote speaker tonight, as well as Jason Defoe, one of the other managing members. We're here to talk about Social Security, and we're going to be talking about it through the lens of a financial plan. Social Security is really simple if you're looking at it on an Excel spreadsheet. But the moment you start building in the layers of real life, of real decisions, of health, taxes, family, emergencies, all these things that real life is, it gets a little bit more sticky. And we're here to help navigate that. That's our role. And so before I hand it over to Matt, I really want to cover three main areas. Why are we doing this? Who is Mission Financial Planners? Why are we talking about Social Security? Next, I want to talk about some of the real tax savings that Social Security has, and it's not talked about enough. And then finally, I want to dig a little bit deeper into the five areas of what a financial plan really has. So, if all that sounds good, let's get started. So, why are we here? And why are we talking with women? I'll give my personal story, and when each of you have your one-on-ones with Matt and Jason, you'll be able to hear a little of their own. But um, my story is I was raised by a single mother. I have two older sisters. There was an abundance of love, not much else, very humble beginnings. But my mother, at the age of, I think, 12, had the bold idea of starting a business. And when you have a mortgage, a car payment, and three kiddos, going from a steady income to zero income to start a business from scratch is, like I said, bold. Some might even say crazy, but it worked. Wasn't smooth, wasn't easy. Mistakes were made, but she eventually built up her business, was able to sell it, retire before the age of 60, and is financially secure and living her best financial life. But like I said, mistakes were made. It could have been smoother. Somebody like myself, with the knowledge that I have, could have sat down with her and helped her navigate some of these things and maybe reached even higher heights. And we want people to live their best financial life. And best can mean many things to different people. It could be more income. It could be more to their kids and grandkids, maybe more tax savings, maybe more to their charity. Whatever more is for you, we have a way to help get you there. And so if you could have more, think about it. What's the one thing you would want more of? While you're thinking about that, let's talk about taxes. We're in tax season. So when it comes to Social Security, it is a tax advantaged income source. Not everybody knows that. We work in 32 states nationwide. Every state works a little bit differently. So if you're thinking of transplanting and moving from California, it's important to know where you might be relocating to. But if you're staying in California, all of your Social Security is exempt from state income tax. All of it. On the federal level, worst case scenario, only 85% of it's taxable, 15% of it is tax free. Through some tax planning, and we talk about it again in the book, is through some tax planning, you can reduce that tax burden on your federal taxes regarding Social Security. There are some instances, and some of our clients are getting all of their Social Security completely federally tax exempt. If you had an extra 30, $40,000, 60,000 in some instances of tax-free income versus taxable, what might you do with it? Let's talk about it. And now let's dive a little bit into what a real financial plan is. We meet a lot of people and we ask, what kind of plan do you have? And you can imagine the type of answers we get. But one thing we rarely see, not saying it never happens, but we rarely see is a plan that has all the areas communicating with one another. What is our income strategy? From starting Social Security, do both of us start it early? Do both of us wait until 70? One of us have a pension. Does that pension provide cost of living adjustments or raises throughout retirement? What are my survivorship options for my spouse? What does it cost for survivorship? Some pensions are really punitive. It's really expensive to protect your spouse. Again, not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying that there are ways to plan around it and protect it. But what is our strategy? How are we going to generate that income? Because that first day of retirement, you're unemployed. And where is that check going to come from for the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life? What's the plan? Next, talk about investments. So, for a lot of households, the sweet spot is about 70% of your income that you want coming in is coming from guaranteed sources like Social Security, like pensions, like real estate. Well, that other 30% is probably going to come from things like your investments, your 401ks and IRAs. Of the assets we're pulling, do we have an income portfolio or a growth portfolio? Is our portfolio taxable or not? And so thinking about how our assets are positioned for the dollars we're needing tomorrow, the dollars we're needing 5 years from now, 20 years from now is really critical about what your dollars should be, where they should be placed. Third area is all about risk management, all the things that are going to go wrong. Think about the last 30 years of your life. How many of your 5 year, 10-year plans went exactly as you predicted? Again, we've talked with a lot of folks, and it's likely not. It's likely it didn't end that way. It didn't happen as smooth as we had hoped, and that's okay. A good financial plan addresses those kinds of bumps and bruises, and risk management insurance is part of it. One of the biggest bumps all of us will likely deal with is a major medical expense. How are we going to address it? And there's multiple ways to do it. Matt is actually one of the national educators for extended care and long-term care planning in the industry. So again, insurance, and this is everything, including your homeowner's insurance, the stuff you have in your rental properties. Just what are the things that can really be expensive in life, and what are we going to do about it? Fourth area is our estate plan. And this is so much more than just a will and a trust. It's power of attorneys, it is medical directives, making sure that your loved ones know in advance what you want to happen before something happens. And I'll be honest, not just yourself, but also your kids. I've been in this industry long enough that just things happen. One of our clients' kids, he's in his mid 30s, was in a motorcycle accident. He is currently incapacitated. Luckily, they have power of attorney on him so that they're able to make medical decisions over it. It's scary, it's real. And sometimes bad things happen, but do we have the means to take care of it? And that's all about the estate plan. And the fifth area covers all the other ones. It's taxes, because it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. You can have a lot of income, you can have really good growth in your investments, but if you're giving it all up in unnecessary taxes, what could have we done with that additional income? So again, a financial plan, and we talk about it a lot throughout the book. And this is all directly from mine, Matt's, and Jason's heart and mind of how to build a plan and how to address it. It's income, investments, insurance, tax, and estate plan. We want everybody to live their best life, and y'all are here. This is the first step. Um, if you had a choice, do you want to be like your girlfriend who knows why she's choosing Social Security early, why she's taking that reduction? Because in her story, she had put things in place that counterbalanced all those scary things that the CEO had mentioned. Because the CEO was right. There are reductions, there are penalties. But if you have a good thing in place, a good part of your plan to offset those negatives, it could be really good for you. Could be. Could be. That, Matt, did I anything you'd like to add?
No, we'll go. Thank you for the introduction, Ken, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Um, so, savvy Social Security planning. From a planning standpoint, when we think about women versus men, one of the big questions we get all the time is, why'd you reach out to women directly? And so on and so on. Well, there's a host of reasons, but it comes down to a couple basic ideas. One is, ladies, you get ignored. Some of you are extremely successful, and you've probably experienced at some point in your life where maybe you're making a big financial decision of some kind. You happen to have a male companion with you, and that person across the table at the dealership, in standing in the house you're looking to buy, starts talking to him. I'll give you a perfect example of that. My wife is very successful. She's an attorney. She was a geologist before she was an attorney. A few years ago, we had our backsplash and countertops redone in our kitchen. And the tile guy who was doing the backsplash is working away. She asked him a question. Now, tell me, ladies, if you've ever experienced something like this, and do it with a show of hands. Um, he actually turned his back on her and started talking to me. And I looked at him and just said, brother, you just blew it. I didn't ask that question. She asked a question. You need to be talking to her. And he's never been welcome back. Jason's wife had a similar experience just a few months ago. And I'm I'm sure, and I can see some of the hands going up, you have experienced something like that. And it's because our industry has been very guilty of that over the years. So we are reaching out directly to women. We have for about 7 or 8 years at this point, and we've helped educate a lot of people and help them make a great decision when it comes to Social Security, but also, like Ken said, in terms of a broader financial plan as well. So you can see here some of the greatest retirement fears that a lot of women have. And what you'll see is that the probably three or four top ones, if there's a theme, it's making sure that you're going to be taken care of financially based on the planning you do, but also that when your health gradually starts to decline, that's not going to become an overwhelming burden financially, physically, or emotionally for you and your family. And so when we think about that, you can see women are much more concerned about many of these things than men are. And this goes right back to that point about our industry not doing a great job of reaching out. Um, you know, our industry has not done a great job of making sure you understand, hey, ladies, here's how Social Security works. Here's how it fits into your bigger picture. Here's how your bigger picture, like Ken talked about with those five key areas, how does your income plan intersect with your investment plan, your risk management or insurance plan, your tax plan, and your estate plan? Because when those five intersect, not only do you get better outcomes, you also get a much stronger plan that can weather the storms that are going to come. So some of the other realities you face as women, number one, lower lifetime earnings. Wage discrimination is a real thing, let alone take a year off because maybe if you had children, maybe you had a difficult pregnancy and you needed some time to recover. When you're gone, you miss out on promotions, you miss out on a year of earnings. Well, guess what? Your Social Security at bullet point number two here, it's a pension. They look at your best 35 years of income when they calculate your pension. If my best 35 years look better than yours, I get a higher pension, right? And then the cherry on top, of course, is that ladies live longer than men because we do a lot of stupid things. We don't eat as well. We take more risks than women do. But when you add all that up, right, it's no surprise that women are more concerned about this than men are. One of the actuaries we like to work with, his name is Wade Pfau, Pfau. I know at least one of the people I spoke with is familiar with his work. Amy, I hope your year's off to a great start. But he did some research on this, and what he found is that if you can do the four things you see on the screen, and you can do them for a year, 2 years, 3 years, each year that you do those four things is the equivalent of adding 3 years to an income plan. Don't misinterpret me. I'm not saying you have to work longer. I'm not saying you have to drastically change your lifestyle, but just know that these seemingly little decisions, like what Ken was talking about at the beginning, they do come together and they do have an outsized impact, especially if you're dealing with long time horizons, 20, 30, 40 years. So speaking of that, let's talk about the value of Social Security. So first question I'll ask you as we get into this section is from a planning standpoint, and just by a show of hands, if you could let me know, how many of you have heard the expression that Social Security is going bankrupt? How many of you heard that? Let's see some hands go up if we could. Right, a whole bunch of people. Okay, here's the part two of that statement. So we've all heard that. What does bankruptcy mean from a Social Security standpoint? Well, with the current Social Security Administration numbers, they're saying that if bankruptcy occurs, it means a 20% reduction in benefits across the board starting about 10 years from now. I started teaching these classes about 15 years ago, and at that time, it was about a 35% reduction is what they were worried about. So it's drastically improved over time. What changed? Demographics. I'm Gen X. Some of you are young baby boomers, right? But Gen X baby boomers didn't retire the way our parents and our grandparents retired. We didn't retire at 55 with a pension. We had to keep working because we had to save, right? Because we had to build our own nest eggs, right? So there's that angle of it. But if you go past Gen X and get into the millennials, the Gen Y, Z, and whatever alpha, whatever next, those generations, just in pure numbers, are much larger. And all those people are in the workforce at this point. They're all contributing to Social Security. They're paying that payroll tax. So that in and of itself has helped strengthen the system over the last 15 years. All Congress has to do is get its act together and say, hey, we're going to tweak the payroll tax. We're going to tweak payout rates. We're going to make whatever changes we need to. And like we did in the mid 70s, we're going to put it on a 50-year track where it's going to work great. Because mid 70s, that's the last time major reforms went in with Social Security. So when people say Social Security is going bankrupt, it does not mean income stops. If there's no changes to the system between now and 2035, it's about a 20% reduction is what they're targeting. When you're building out your financial plan with us, we can model that for you in the plan so you can see what that actually looks like. Okay, so the numbers we're going to talk about on tonight's workshop do not assume that there's a reduction. We're assuming that Congress will get their act together and actually do something. As a National Social Security advisor, I would like to encourage you to get a hold of your congressperson and talk to them about this. Write them, believe it or not, a handwritten letter. Call them. Tell them you want them to do something about this and stay on them. Okay, Social Security, income you can't outlive. If you just had a $2,000 a month benefit and you just got a 2% average cost of living adjustment with it, you live 20 years, it's about a $600,000 benefit that's been paid out to you. You go 30 years, it's about $1 million benefit. And those annual inflation adjustments, 2,000 a month in 20 years is almost 3,000. It's creeping up on 3,700 a month in 30 years. So those have a big impact in the long-term plan. We are going to talk about 4 basic rules and strategies. You can see them on the screen there. But before we do, I just want to hit at a couple key points. The first thing is making sure that you qualify for benefits on your own work record. That is, you paid into Social Security for at least 10 years. Second thing, are you currently married? And if so, has your spouse filed and started receiving their Social Security benefit? And then what about prior marriages? But more importantly, how did those marriages end? Was it through death or divorce? Because the rules for the income that the spouse who's affected by that are very different depending on if someone passed away versus there was a divorce. We'll take you through that. One of the things you'll hear me say a couple times tonight, though, is keep in mind you can only take one individual benefit at a time. I can file for a retirement benefit. I can file for a spousal benefit. If I'm divorced, I could file for that. If my spouse passed, I could file for a survivor benefit. I cannot take my retirement benefit and a spousal benefit at the same time. I can take a benefit, my spouse can take her benefit, and that's great. But when one of you dies, just know this, the smaller benefit stops being paid into the household because that's how the system basically works. Okay. We want to coordinate all this stuff though. So just remember one benefit at a time. I'll say it a couple times tonight. Second thing, what's the benefit? Well, the definition, what they call it is full retirement age. So in other words, age 67 for virtually everybody who's on the call tonight. Age 67 is when you get 100% of your benefit. You can take it early. You can take it at 62. You'll get a reduction. We'll show you that in a couple slides. You could wait till 70, get a bigger one or bigger benefit, right? But 67 is the age at which you get 100%. What do you get 100% of? Your primary insurance amount. Remember earlier I said that there's 35 years of income that goes into calculating the benefit? Basically, the way they calculate it is they take your best 35 years. So with those 35 years, what ends up happening is they'll say, okay, Matt, ages 19 to 54, you did great, but 55 to 67, you made a lot more money. So they're going to kick out all those early years where you weren't making that much. Okay, fine. But keep in mind, if you file and you keep working, they're going to recalculate your benefit. So as you work and get older, your benefit could grow over time because you probably are making more as a 72-year-old who loves what they do and can't imagine quitting, like my dad who worked till he was 78. And what'll happen is every fall you'll see an uptick in your Social Security benefit. Why? Because they recalculated it. Okay. Primary insurance amount, that's the amount you get at age 70, or excuse me, 67. When you look at the statement that's on the screen here, and this is a screenshot of a sample statement, this is what your statement looks like. For your Social Security analysis, we need to know that age 67 number for you. That's it. That's all we need to know. We need to know how old you are currently, but what is your age 67 number? Full retirement age. That's the number we need to know. Okay, retirement benefits, how to get that statement, how to know. Easiest way, go onto the Social Security website and do it. It is by far the easiest. If you're not comfortable with that, they have a great retirement estimator. They have a quick calculator you can use. Every now and then, when I'm doing an analysis with someone live, I'll pull that up because they're not sure what the spouse or the ex or, the spouse who passed away, they're not entirely sure. And we can estimate though, right? We can estimate. So go online, ssa.gov, easiest way to do it, create an account for yourself, pull your statement. And again, you don't have to send us your statement. We just need to know what's age 67 look like. That's it. That's all we need to know. You don't need to send us your statement. Okay. So I hinted at this earlier, and 67 is when you get 100%. Well, you can take your benefits as early as 62, but you only get you get a 30% discount, which means you only get 70%. Okay. You can see it creeps up until you get to 67. And then here you can see where it keeps going up until you get to 70. And that's where you get 124% of your benefit. You'll notice it's simple interest. It's not compounding. Okay. But you'll see 2480 a month versus 2000 a month if you wait. Why would you wait versus take it early? There's a host of reasons. Sometimes it makes sense in the plan. Sometimes you retired at 55 and taking income at 62 makes sense from a time value of money standpoint. Sometimes you kept working till 75 and you just didn't feel the need to take it till 70. There's a whole host of reasons you may or may not choose to take it. One of the key things we do see in people who do wait that long, typically though, is what happens over time. And they're concerned about longevity. Hey, my mom made it to 102. You're like my wife. Grandmother's 99, other grandmother's 95. Both are still at home. What's that mean for her? She takes care of herself. So what does this mean in the long run? Well, A, you start off with a bigger benefit on day one, but B, if you do live 25, 30, 35, like Ken said, maybe even 40 years in retirement, well, now you're looking at substantially bigger payouts. One of the questions I get about this is, well, what are the odds they're going to keep paying? What I'm going to encourage you to do is look up a woman named Irene Triplett, Triplett. She passed away a few years ago. She was the last living recipient, get a load of this, the last living recipient of a Civil War pension. Last living recipient just died in the early 2020s from the American Civil War pension. The American Civil War ended in 1865. The US government was still meeting its pension obligations on that. What is that? 155 years, 156 years later. Okay. Plan for this. The conservative mindset, the conservative person when it comes to dollars and cents and making sure I'm addressing some of those long-term concerns that a lot of people have. The conservative approach is to assume that you're going to live a very long life. That is the conservative approach. If you want to be aggressive, assume you're going to pass away early in retirement and don't worry about that later stuff. Okay. Most people are going to be somewhere in between. But you can see here, these benefits, it makes a huge difference if you wait and you just get a 2% average cost of living adjustment. So it can have a big effect over time if it is important to your plan. That's probably the big question. Okay, so a couple key points here. You apply early, you get a lower benefit. It stays low. The cost of living adjustments, they'll magnify the impact, right? 2% on a smaller number is a smaller increase. 2% on a bigger number is a bigger increase. The key, though, for those of you who are married, and even some of you who are divorced, is to coordinate with your spouse. That is the key. In fact, we met with someone today who's looking at developing an income plan, and she has a much larger benefit than her spouse does. She's going to wait till 70. He's going to take his earlier because he's just turning full retirement age in about a month here. And that decision makes sense for them. But again, it's because we're digging into their overall plan. Okay. One reason not to file before full retirement age is not only is your benefit reduced, but if you're working and making more than about $70,000 a year of earned income, $1 in benefits is withheld for every $2 that you go over 24,480. Okay, so if I go to 24,482, they're going to pull back $1 of Social Security benefits from me. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you're under full retirement age and you're working, you like what you do, there's no reason to file. They're just going to withhold your benefit, is all they're going to do. Get to full retirement age, though, you can file and get your income, not just from Social Security, but your earned income from your employment as well. Again, that's what my dad did. He is now 87. He filed, his full retirement age was 65. He filed at 65, went through 78 before he finally retired. He had 13 years where he drew his Social Security and had full income. And they recalculated his benefit every year. No reductions, no withholding, because he waited till full retirement age. He also made sure my mother, by doing that, has the biggest possible benefit when he passes. Do you want to work to 78? Probably not for most people. But again, those are some of the questions you need to be asking yourself when it comes to this. Okay, spousal benefits. How do spousal benefits work? The key with spousal benefits is pretty simple. One, if you're going to file as a spouse, your spouse has to have filed. If your spouse is not filed, there's no spousal benefit for you to go get. Two, do not take a spousal benefit at 62 thinking you're going to be able to turn on your own bigger benefit at 67 and get 100% of your benefit at 67. They will track that you took a benefit at 62 and they will base your benefit on the decision to file at 62. We get that question a lot from people and it does not work that way. Okay, so if your spouse files at 67, and I am 6 years older than my wife, so let's say I file at 67, I get to 68. She is now 62. She can file as my spouse because I filed. If I'm waiting until 70, she can't. When I'm 70 and she's 64, I file. Now she could file as my spouse. She might not want to, though, because for all I know, her benefit's going to be bigger than mine at that point, and she doesn't have to do anything. Here's a good example of how it looks from an income standpoint. If his benefit's 2,400 and he filed, she files as his spouse. At her full retirement age, she gets half of his. Okay, so he files full retirement age, gets 2,400. She files full retirement age, she's going to get half of what his was. Okay, if you're to I think I lost my headset for a second there. Ken, mic check. How am I doing?
You're back.
I'm
Yep.
back. Okay, great. So from a benefit coordination standpoint, if you file before full retirement age, don't forget you get the reduction applied. Okay, just remember that. That is something that a lot of people still think it works from some of the older strategies that have gone away since 2015. But it does not work that way anymore. Okay, coordinating benefits. Here's that example in dollars and cents. So let me just draw here for you real quick. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here you can see the household benefits, 2,400, 800. Okay. The smaller benefit files at 62. 30% reduction means that you don't get 800, you get 560. Here's where the false thinking comes into play. This person thinks I filed at 62. Yeah, I'm getting $500 a month, but that's my fund money, whatever. Okay, fine. Well, they think that at 67, they're going to get half of the 2,400. They think they're going to get $1,200. They're not. They're going to get a little extra, but all they're going to get is $820 a month. That's it. They will not get the full 1,200. So there's a lot of people who think that they're going to get all those benefits. And folks, I'm sorry, it just does not work that way. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so if you file at full retirement age, they don't play shell games with you. If your benefit at full retirement age is bigger than the spousal benefit, they'll give you your benefit. If your benefit's smaller than the spousal benefit, they'll give you the spousal benefit. All right, coordination. Again, if you're a little closer, maybe in terms of benefit amount, one person has 2,400, the other one has 2,000. Well, hey, if I file at full retirement age as the 2,000 person, I get my 2,000 a month. I won't get 1,200 plus my 2,000. I will get my 2,000. Okay, that's what I'll get. All right. Okay, let's talk divorces. I'm smiling and I shouldn't be. But I have a great story for you about Social Security and divorces. So years ago, I gave this talk for a friend of mine who is an advisor in Omaha, Nebraska. And after the talk, this lovely lady came up to me and said, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" Sure. So the question was, I have a friend who has three exes. What should she do? And I thought for a second and I went back to, the rules. And I just said, well, let me ask you this. How many of those marriages lasted at least 10 years? It's the first bullet point. She said, well, all of them did. Okay. Is your friend currently unmarried? Yes. Okay. Are the ex-husbands at least 62? She laughed and goes, oh yeah, they're all way older. Okay. Um, was the most recent divorce at least 2 years ago? Yeah. Okay, that's important because what your friend can do, she can go down to Social Security and she can tell them, hey, here's divorce decrees. What am I entitled to for each one of these guys while they're alive? And what am I entitled to once they die? It doesn't matter if they filed or not because the most recent divorce happened at least 2 years ago. As a result, all you have to do at that point is say, I want the biggest benefit. And you know what she said? That's what I'm going to do. She was talking about herself. So that's how divorces work from a Social Security standpoint. Married at least 10 years, currently unmarried. If the ex is at least 62 and that divorce was more than 2 years ago, all that stuff I just said about the spouse has to file, throw it out the window. The spouse does not have to have filed. If you're in a situation where you need the money, don't worry about it, right? You need the money, you need the money. It's what it is. But again, don't rush out and do this without making sure you look at how does it fit into your overall plan. I'm not going to take you through this whole example, and you might note from the beginning of tonight's presentation, we're recording. This is going to be up on our YouTube channel no later than end of day Friday. But I want to highlight the last three bullet points here. Okay, you file as someone's ex, they don't know. The reason they don't know is their benefits are not affected in any way. If they have remarried, their current spouse does not know either because neither are they affected. And if there are other exes out there, none of them are affected either. When I do this presentation in person, a lot of times at this point, someone will say, oh, well, that's why they're, going bankrupt. And I politely disagree because I think, as we all know, some marriages are really ugly on the way out the door. And the last thing, even from just a safety standpoint, you really don't want that person coming back in your life. Well, can you imagine what would happen if someone from 30 years ago suddenly showed up because you filed for Social Security as their ex, right? That's why they do it this way, is to protect the divorced spouse. But just keep in mind, your ex won't know. If they have remarried, their current spouse won't know. Any other exes out there who qualified, married at least 10 years, they're not going to know either because none of them are affected. Okay, let's let's go from the humor of divorce to the sobriety, if you will, of survivorship, because it's a shock for everyone. Your survivor benefit really does depend on two things. First is the person who passed away, when did they file? How old were they? And the second is, how old are you when you take the survivor benefit? So let me show you an example. Here we have a married couple. He had a bigger benefit. He has 2,400 a month. He died at, say, age 70. Okay. If he had waited all the way to 70, don't forget he gets all those delayed credits, right? He's not getting 2,400 a month. He's getting almost 3,000 a month. But he gets to 70 and he drops dead. He never got one check. What could that spouse do? Hey, guess what? If she's 67 or older, she can file as his surviving spouse, and she will get 100% of whatever he was going to get. What if he waited? He was waiting till 70. What if he died at 69? Same thing. Social Security will assume he was going to file at his age 69. 68, full retirement age, right? But if he filed at 64, spousal benefit in part is based on that earlier decision. So we'll talk about, let me show you why this is so important. I'm going to draw on the screen again here. So let's say you're in that scenario and your spouse filed early. Okay, they filed at 62. Even if they're just a couple years older than you, they're 62, you're 60, they pass away. Um, they pass away. And what you'll see is they could, as the surviving spouse, you could file as early as 60. But because the person who passed at 62 or passed took their benefit at 62, you're only going to get about 71%. Okay. Well, what if you waited, right? Hey, if I wait longer, I get a bigger benefit. That makes sense. That's what the guy said at the stake webinar that I attended. What then? Well, look at what happens at 63 and beyond. You're capped at 82.5%. It'll never get bigger than that. Okay. And it's all because the person who passed at 62 or who passed took their benefit at 62. If that person had waited till 70, hey, maybe the person who passed is 10 years older. You're 60. He was 70. He died. Well, you're going to get that same reduced number if you take it at 60. But look what happens. If you go to 67, you get 100% of what he was supposed to get. Just what I said earlier. So from a planning standpoint, if one of you has extraordinary longevity, that's one of the reasons we want to think through pretty carefully, not just this income decision, but what are the other income decisions that can influence this? Has your investment portfolio been modified to be turned into more of a growth and income portfolio? What kind of insurance plans do you have in place so that you don't have to raid the portfolio when you start needing more health care? California, state income tax. You've got federal income tax. You also have federal capital gains, state capital gains. You also have net investment income tax. You also have Medicare surcharges if your income's over certain thresholds. How do we balance all that into this equation? These are all super important questions that should be addressed before you make this decision. Our Social Security analysis doesn't get into that. Our Social Security analysis is very straightforward. It shows you, hey, here's lifetime benefits based on what you do. What we're going to encourage you to do is go from that step to step two, which is more, okay, how does this start affecting? How do the other things that are in place affect this decision? Because they are intertwined. All right, let me clear out my drawings and we will get moving. All right. So not going to belabor this point anymore. 60 is the soonest you can take a survivor benefit. 62 is the soonest you can take an income benefit. Last bullet point on this slide, you must have been married at least 9 months unless death was the result of an accident. Okay. Now here is where you do have some opportunities, but I want to just elaborate on a point I made earlier, which is you get one benefit at a time. You personally cannot get two benefits. Okay. So if you look at, it's the fourth bullet point here. Married couple, they're still alive. Both are still alive. Two checks are coming into the house. It's about $4,000 a month. Okay. This says Jack dies. Doesn't matter who dies. Okay. First person passes away. That $1,200 benefit, that smaller one of the two, stops paying in, and the bigger one continues. That's $15,000 a year. That's tax exempt at California. Worst case scenario at the federal level, it's at least 15% tax exempt. Do we want a bigger tax exempt number or a smaller tax exempt number for that surviving spouse? Because that surviving spouse still has to pay property taxes, still has to pick up their own Medicare. Once they get through that first year, now they have to file single on everything from a tax standpoint. What does all that mean? They've got required minimum distributions from that massive IRA you built. What's that going to do? Suddenly, This decision starts having an impact because do I want 36,000 a year tax exempt at the California level, or do I want 50 grand a year tax exempt at the California level? You tell me. Okay, couple examples for you here. Got to be married at least 10 years. Okay. If you're divorced, okay, marriage lasted at least 10 years. If you're currently unmarried, you're still eligible for a survivor benefit, or if you got remarried after the age of 60. Okay. You found love again, go ahead and get remarried. We have had a couple clients over the years in California who were at like year 8.5, and they were starting divorce proceedings when they met us, and we just said, hey, can you maybe, we know it doesn't go super fast, can you slow it down just to make sure you get through that 10-year mark? And in every case, the couple was like, sure, yeah, we could do that. So marriage has to last at least 10 years for eligibility. One of the things Ken specializes in, one of the credentials he holds is as a certified divorce financial analyst. He can take you through the analytics on that. More importantly, he can work with your attorney to make sure you are getting a fair shake on that divorce. If you or one of your girlfriends is going through a divorce right now, you've got to get a hold of Ken and talk with him and introduce him to their attorney, because we meet loads of people where the divorce attorney is a great divorce attorney and there's no analytics backing up the settlement. Get Ken in the mix. It's super important that you do that. Um, Getting back to Social Security, if you think you're going to outlive your spouse, and I just did a time check there, we have about 10 minutes to go. Um, if just one of you has longevity, that's really all I want you to take from this slide. If just one of you has longevity that you're concerned about, the person with the bigger benefit is the person who should wait. Okay. That's the person who should wait. If you can afford it, if it makes sense from a time value of money standpoint, yes, we have to address those questions. But if all that makes sense, then the bigger benefit is the one that should wait. We get into taxes, and this is something that we all specialize in, but from a tax and estate planning standpoint, this is where Jason will come into the mix in many cases, because when we start thinking about the long-term tax burden of a plan, sometimes waiting to 70 to take Social Security creates an opportunity to draw down some of those taxable retirement accounts, those traditional IRAs and 401ks. And folks, I know it doesn't feel like we live in a low tax environment today, but at least at the federal level, we are in the lowest tax environment since the 1920s. All the tax analysis that we've read about the big bill that passed last year is pretty straightforward. No tax policy institute of any kind expects that bill to stay in law for more than 6 or 7 years because the federal government can't afford it. So what are they going to change? There's no appetite to cut spending. What are they going to change? So take advantage of the way things are today while you can. Right, coordinating. This is where maybe you've got a benefit, your spouse passed. What do we do? So here's an example. We've got Linda, her benefit's $2,000 a month. Her spouse was getting $2,200 a month when her spouse passed. What could Linda do? Well, at 62, she could file. She'll get 70% of her benefit, which means she'll get $700 a month. Wait till 67 and now switch over to that bigger survivor benefit and get 100% of that survivor benefit. Does this make sense? If Linda's working, it doesn't make sense. Because remember earlier when I talked about withholding, if you're working and you're making over about, call it $60,000 or $70,000 a year of earned income, they're just going to withhold all your benefits. It doesn't make sense for her to take that benefit early, because if she's working, they're just going to withhold the whole thing. If she's not working, or more importantly, if she doesn't have earned income, different story. Flip this around. Dora's got the bigger benefit. Okay, spouse passed away. What could Dora do? Hey, as early as 60, she could take a reduced spousal benefit or survivor benefit, excuse me, and at 70, flip over to her much larger benefit. Does she have to do this? No, of course not. But we have to look at it as an option. And that's the value of planning. And that's where Social Security fits into planning. is if I know what my options are, I can make a good informed decision when the unexpected happens and I have to make a change. If I have never looked at what my options are, if I've never looked at asset management, income planning, insurance planning, tax and estate together, and that's where our book comes into play. You got to read our book. I know you all have a copy of it. And I know we had one or two late registrations. You're going to get a copy of it. If it's not in the mail tomorrow, it'll be in the mail Friday. Read that book. It does a great job of explaining how do these 5 key areas fit together and why is it so important that your financial planner is not just a portfolio manager, where they actually understand, hey, yeah, it's great we got 22% in your portfolio last year, but we were 100% equities and you're retiring in 3 years. We got to look at Social Security. We got to look at Medicare. We got to look at extended care. We got to look at income plans. Also, how much can we maybe get you on a tax equivalent basis if we can keep as much of the income tax exempt as possible? And then what's your goal? What do you want to have happen once you pass away? Right? You got to look at all that. And unfortunately, a lot of people get comfortable and it takes something to shake them, right? Like a spouse dying to get them to take a hard look at things. Don't wait that long. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your spouse. Work with someone who, at a minimum, is a certified financial planner. And you look me, Ken, and Jason up on our website, look us up on LinkedIn, look us up on the SEC's website, look us up on the CFP board. We have loads of credentials. All of us have at least 3 or 4 credentials because we are lifetime learners. We want to make sure we're getting the best outcome possible for you. Okay, if you get remarried, remarriage at any age will cancel out the divorced spouse benefit unless that marriage ends. You got to be unmarried to get the divorced spouse benefits. Okay. If you happen to get remarried before the age of 60, it cancels out the survivor benefit and um, the income benefit. You're tied to your current spouse, the new spouse. Okay. If you get remarried after 60, though, you can still get a survivor benefit from that previous spouse. Okay. So just remember, after 60, you can still get the bigger survivor benefit if your high income earning spouse passed away several years ago. Okay, survivor planning. The person with the bigger benefit is typically the person who should wait. Please remember what I said earlier, and I'll say it again. I'm not trying to belabor the point, but this has to make sense within the confines of what you want to have happen, right? Am I worried about longevity? If you're not, waiting until 70 might not make sense. Do I need income now? Do I need income later? Do I like what I do? Do I need to get out the door because I just can't go, I can't do it anymore, right? Do I have to take time off to take care of a parent or a child? There's so many different situations that everybody's in that there's no one answer that fits everybody. That's part of our job is to get to know you well enough to figure out, hey, you know what? From what you've told me, it sounds like this is the most important thing. Am I understanding it correctly? Okay, if I can put together a plan that meets your eye, could we work together? Because that's what this is all about. Survivor planning. Hey, nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody even wants to think about that, but it's something you have to address. So compare your benefits, take the higher benefit last, if at all possible. Don't get remarried before 60 if you want to preserve that spousal benefit. Okay, in the last couple minutes here, if you're currently married, coordinate, coordinate, coordinate. Okay, Social Security analysis, you'll get a lot out of it. If you're divorced, same thing if possible. If you can talk to your ex, if you can't, hey, that's okay too, but we can still do the analysis. If you're a surviving spouse, we got to take a look at what was available, what is available. And the never married one, every now and then I'll get someone who will say, well, Matt, that didn't really apply to me, your presentation. And I actually strongly disagree with that assessment because everything we talked about from a time value of money standpoint, take it, leave it, taxes, how does it affect your investment plan, your income plan, all those questions you still got to address. It's just a little simpler because you don't have the second person, the second variable in the equation. And if your spouse has passed, coordinate those benefits. Okay, a couple thoughts for you. One, you could live to age 95 or longer. Plan for it. Remember what I said earlier? A conservative retirement income plan assumes that you live a long life. An aggressive retirement income plan assumes you don't live a long life. I would be willing to bet most people on this call are assuming a 20 to 30-year retirement. So plan for it. There is inflation adjusted income here. Any other income you get from anything else, make sure you understand how it grows over time. Because those decisions you make in your 50s and 60s, they will absolutely determine your outcomes, your income in your 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. Delaying, of course, gives you bigger benefits later. Coordinate, coordinate, coordinate. And hopefully I haven't been too strong on this, but you've got to have a well-rounded plan. Social Security is one part of that plan. So we go this deep on Social Security. We go this deep on the bigger income plan that includes all the other stuff that we talked about. We go that deep on investment management. We go that deep on insurance planning. And it all comes down to tax management, and how are things going to pass once you pass away. So from a planning standpoint, we are coming up right on time. Thank you so much for your attention tonight. You're going to get an email later from Ken that's going to have a short questionnaire for you to fill out. That's to help us get ready for your Social Security analysis. You can provide as much information on there as you feel free to, or as you feel comfortable with, but you don't have to. Literally, like I said, tell us what you're interested in. You'll see some check boxes for different areas you're maybe concerned about. But on top of that, at a minimum, we just need to know how old are you currently? What does Social Security say they're going to pay you at 67? We will take it from there. And if you like our approach and it feels like we're clicking, we'll move on and go deeper with you after that first meeting. If not, you'll get the Social Security analysis. We part as friends, and maybe at a later date, we'll be able to work together. Ken, any big questions come up in the chat? Any consistent questions come up where more than one person
Yeah,
asked? And
yeah. There's one question asking about, is there an absolute maximum you can receive from Social Security?
yeah, based on how long you live,
Mhm.
you know,
I think they
you
meant for
know,
like on a month. What's the maximum monthly benefit or
I,
annual benefit you could
I
get?
I'd have to check for 26. I haven't looked at the 26 number yet, but I want to say off the top of my head, the 25 number was $4,035 a month or something like that. Um, so right in that ballpark. So it would have gone up incrementally for 26, maybe 4,100, something
Ooh,
like that.
closer, warmer, warmer.
What is it?
4152.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
Yep.
4152. So
Yep.
a lot of you on this call, and I shouldn't assume, but a lot of you on this call, you're both in that situation. You had high income, your spouse had high income. Guys, if you're at all concerned about longevity, think about not just the income, but think about the tax planning we talked about. How do you want to get 8,500 a month, rounding up, 8,500 a month tax free at the state level and at least 15% tax exempt at the federal level? You probably do, right? So that's a huge consideration because when we get into tax equivalent yield, this is where we're really tough to beat. We have world-class investment managers who can deliver the income that you want, but we will make sure that you're keeping as much of it as possible as well. What other questions came up, Ken?
One other question is, okay, we get it. Delaying can make sense. Getting more is more. Are there ever instances in when one or both partners should take it at 62?
Oh, for sure. So there's three come top of mind. One is you retired early. And when I say early, you retired by 50, something like that. And that extra 8 years of waiting to get that benefit, you got to do an analysis on the time value of money on that and see what the value of that 8 year window, whether that's going to help or hurt your overall plan. So in that case, it might absolutely make sense to take it at 62. Another instance where it might make sense, your health is really poor. Hey, if your health is poor, go out and enjoy the time you have. Take the benefit, go out there and do it, right? Get out there and do it. Um, And then the third thing would just be you've got longevity concerns in general, balancing that back with, hey, you know what? My spouse is in a much better situation than I am. It's me taking it early is just going to let me go do some fun things or maybe shower my grandkids with some stuff with the extra money, right? But there's those are at least three scenarios. One is time value of money, two is life expectancy, three is you've got serious medical issues today, and it just makes sense to take it.
Perfect. All the other ones were a little more nuanced, but overall, great conversation with everybody in the chat. So thanks for participating. Um, yeah, Matt, any final words?
No, just come to your Social Security analysis ready to go. Like I said, you're going to get an email from Ken later tonight that's going to have that questionnaire. Make sure you get that questionnaire filled out as soon as you can. I know I've got a couple people scheduled for tomorrow, so make sure you do it tonight. And hopefully everybody had a fantastic meal. And if there were any issues, they've already been taken care of. But that's why we work with Flemings because they have world-class service. And if there was a potential issue, they'll make sure it gets fixed.
Only thing I have to add is we ran out of time for the pop quiz on the book, so we will be doing that at a later date. But again, thank you for everybody's time. There's nothing more valuable than that, and look forward to our conversations to come.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.